This is Spice Island, Portsmouth, so named because of the vast quantities of spices landed here from foreign shores. And this is where most of them came from, the romantic spice island of the Caribbean, Grenada. Actually part of a 3-island group, along with Carriacou and Petit Martinique, Grenada has long been regarded as one of the jewels of the Caribbean. And once again, with my wife Carol and son Chris, it is my good fortune to be travelling with tropical places for 2 weeks in the sun. Grand Anse literally means Big Bay, and like so many Caribbean islands, has a mixture of French and English place names. Grenada was originally discovered by Columbus as he sailed by in 1498, and he named the island Concepcion. But because cannibalistic Carib Indians occupied the island, settlement occurred considerably later. The British tried in 1609, but were chased off, and it wasn't until 1650 that the French, armed with duty-free booze and trinkets, came ashore to win over the locals. The peace lasted about as long as the drink, and a year later, after a running battle for control of the island, the remaining natives were cornered in the north of the island at Le Mont de Sauteur, which in English means Leaper's Hill, and every last man, woman and child threw themselves over the cliffs to the rocks below. There are a wide variety of island tours on offer, and Carol and I are going to see the Concord Waterfall. Situated between Mount Quaqua and the west coast, within the Concord Valley, the falls are actually 3 separate layers. One of several falls that descend from the rainforest, the Concord is the most accessible, and so attract the most tourists. We've come to the Spice Factory, an original set of buildings where various spices are produced by hand before distribution. These sheds are used to dry and store the leaves and nuts, and visitors are encouraged to come and see how spices are obtained. There are more spices grown per square mile in Grenada than anywhere on the planet. Cloves, mace, cinnamon, cocoa and ginger among them, but by far the most abundant is nutmeg, and Grenada produces 1/3 of the world's supply, and it is the island's biggest export. The nutmeg actually yields 3 crops. The outer mace, which covers the nutmeg, is revealed when the kernel is split open, and after a thorough washing to remove any impurities, is left to dry in the sun, before being sorted by hand into 1st, 2nd and 3rd grades. The nutmegs are placed on drying trays until ready to send to market. The whole spice selling operation is handled by a workers' cooperative, with every grower, large or small, bringing their produce to several stations around the island, and they are paid according to weight and quality. The nutmegs are then bagged ready to be sent upstairs to dry, either on the floor or in racks.
So now this nutmeg here, we just dry by the natural air. So we use a wooden rake so we can turn it around so then the air can pass through and keep it drying. After it's properly dried, then remove it from the racks, place it into the sacks and carry it to the machine to remove the salted shells.
The mace is stored in large bins ready for distribution. Once the machine has cracked the shells, workers downstairs finish the shelling by hand. Eco-tours operate from Grand Anse Beach, and they've undertaken to educate the local fishermen to try and conserve the turtle, as its numbers are diminishing alarmingly. And by teaching children in local schools, they hope that the next generation will stop killing it for food and tourist souvenirs. But it is their eco-hikes we are trying today. So, guided by Steve, we set off to visit the Seven Sisters Waterfall. It's quite a moderate hike through a deep valley, but well worth the exertion. While we play like children in and around the falls, Steve is preparing our lunch, a hearty portion of cheese and pickle rolls, keenly watched by a lizard hoping for a few crumbs. Once we had finished our lunch, the remainder was thrown into the lower pool to feed the fish. That's St Catherine's Point in the distance as we continue our hike to a hot springs pool. And how pleasant the sensation after the cool waters of the waterfall. Spice Island Dive, run by Carol, Paul and Bert, took Chris under their wing so he could take his Dive Masters course. Their dive operation is first class with state-of-the-art equipment and a powerful boat. As with all dive operations on the island, their services do not come as a package with the hotels, and an average dive costs around £20. Grenada offers a wealth of dive sites from novice to expert, and many people come here just to sample the underwater experience. They are the only dive operators who have dive propulsion vehicles, which you saw Chris on at the beginning of the video. Because of the 4-hour time difference between the Caribbean and England, I find that I am always up in time to watch the sunrise pulling itself skyward on the far horizon. And it is at this time of day, alone with just the waves for company, that I find so relaxing, contemplating on the joys of the natural world and how lucky I am to be here. In order to see an island properly, it should be viewed from the sea as well as the land. So we are starting our day with a boat trip from Montrouge Bay to the harbour at St George. Grenada is a rainforest island roughly 21 miles long by 12 miles wide. Its mountainous spine rises to nearly 3,000 feet at Mount St Catherine, and the terrain descends through elfin woodland dwarf forests, montane rainforest, lowland dry forests and mangrove areas, to pearly white sandy beaches, clear blue sea and exquisite coral reefs. It's an island of volcanic origins, and it was volcanic activity that built the hills and valleys. Fort George, built by the French in 1706, guards the entrance to the bay on one side. The harbour, called the Carénage, is believed to be one of the craters formed in the final stage of volcanic activity. Every Saturday the area comes alive with the bustle of people going to market, and a veritable sea of humanity washes through the marketplace buying fresh produce from the hundreds of stallholders. These are the original Spice Girls, selling spices in packed form or as necklaces, and who could resist them? During the main holiday season, there can be 4 or more cruise ships in and around the harbour, adding considerably to the town population. So, together with our friends Alison and Michael, we have taken our rental jeep above the town for a better look. If spice growing is the main cash crop, then fishing is the most popular communal activity, with whole villages turning out to help and share in the catch. And of course it wouldn't be a Caribbean island without cricket. And with this kind of team I could get to like the sport. We are making our way to see the many bays and inlets towards the south of the island. Grenada is divided up into 6 parishes, and we are still in St George's. This area is known as Fort Jeudi, although there has never been a fort sighted here. But what a magnificent landscape! No visit to Grenada would be complete without a tour of the River Antoine rum factory, not because of the alcohol itself, but because of the fascinating process involved. The heart of the operation is this water wheel, which provides the power needed to operate the crushers, and what a testimony to British engineering. The sugarcane is cut by hand from the fields and then brought to the factory. The cane is then placed on a conveyor belt which carries it to the crusher. The liquid is squeezed out and falls into a concrete gutter which channels it into the building. The residue is then placed into small railway trucks and dumped in huge piles for later refinement into agricultural usage. Many islanders love the taste of raw sugarcane, so how come their teeth are so perfect? Once inside the factory, the liquid goes through a boiling and refining process. Molasses is added, and before you know it, you're buying the t-shirt and testing the rum.